So let me welcome you again to our virtual road trek rally. And today we're going to try and do a little bit of a tour of Newfoundland and share with you some great boondocking spots along the way. This is from a trip that we took 2 summers ago. And so I'm hoping that you'll enjoy some of the great parts of Eastern Canada. So I will share my screen. So I'm going to, if you follow my cursor, this is Eastern Canada through New Brunswick, and this goes through the top end of Nova Scotia. If you follow this line, this is kind of where we went. You'll see a few pictures kind of in this area here along the shoreline of the north side of Nova Scotia. And this goes over to North Sydney, where you get the ferry. So from North Sydney, you could take an 8-hour ferry across to Port aux Basques, or you have the option to take a 16-hour ferry ride over to the eastern side near St. John's. So if I were going to do it again, I would go one way, do the drive, and then come back the other way. And on these ferries, they have cabins. If you rent a cabin, they have restaurants, so it's quite comfortable. When we went, we didn't realize this, and we went one ferry and came back the same ferry, so we went this twice. So going across the ferry to Point aux Basques is your point of arrival. I'm going to share some sites up along this coast here to start with, and then we'll go up around here, and coming back, we'll stop at Mourne, which is here. And then we take this road. I'm going to take you into some little bays and inlets in this area, and then come back here. There's a very nice little village here called Karenville that we'll show you some photos of. And then this goes to St. John's. And when I'm talking about the icebergs, this is at Twilight Gate, which is right out here. And this is kind of what they call Iceberg Alley. So when I refer to the iceberg area at Twilight Gate, we're up on this tip here. So that's kind of a bit of an orientation on the geography of Newfoundland and where we went. So of course, this is my co-driver, Grace. Many of you have seen her in the past or met her. And if you haven't met her in life, you've likely seen her on my Facebook page. So she's the one that keeps us all organized inside the van. And this is just on the shoreline of Nova Scotia near Pictou, and we're traveling along. There's all sorts of little wayside parks like this along the way to stop. Some you can even stay over. The people are very friendly, and it's a very nice area. This is part of the Bay of St. Lawrence area. And just as we're traveling towards the eastern tip of Nova Scotia, Cape Breton, this is Pugwash. Lots of history along the way, of course. And this is one of the oldest churches in Eastern Canada. Very beautiful little village. I like taking the coastal roads through the villages. This is a Tanamaguchi village along the way. And I don't know if many of you are aware, but Grace Jollymore Joyce is the wife of Ron Joyce, and Ron was the founder with Tim Hortons Coffee, along with Tim Hortons, and eventually bought it out when Tim Hortons passed away. So this is an arts center in tribute to Ron's wife. Again, just around the corner, you're on water all the way. And as long as your water's on the left, you know you're going in the right direction.
Doug?
Yes.
It reminds me, just about 28 kilometers from the ferry terminal, there's a spot where most of the truckers stop. It is known as the windiest place in Newfoundland, and we boondock there. Do you know about that?
Well, I didn't know it was the windiest spot, but I'm going to show you a couple spots.
Okay.
Okay. So this is near Seafoam. The community is called Seafoam, a huge lavender farm, which was quite interesting for Grace to see. She's into flowers and art stuff, and again, we're following along the water all the way going east. Some bridges over to some islands, and lighthouses all over the place, of course, for the navigation in the past. We're in the fishing village now, and we just happened to come by when the fishermen were coming out of their building, and they're headed to the boat to go fishing for the day. And this is the bay. This is also a boondocking spot, typical of what you'll see usually every hour. You'll see a little park area on the side of the road. It's like a roadside rest area, but there's usually picnic tables and garbage cans, and sometimes there's a porta potty, not always. But we stayed at this place overnight, and it's very common that the people in the community, put flower boxes and that sort of thing there. They're very welcoming when you talk to them. And so we have really enjoyed talking to the people as much as the boondocking spots. Here's another little area. This is in a place called Badek. And all of this shore area is open parkland, and they've got room to pull over. Very small villages, and some of the coastal area near here, and all sorts of beaches. And we found everybody very welcoming wherever we went, and you're welcome to stay. And we did not stay overnight here, but we could have very easily. And this is what you'd wake up to in the morning, Big Bay. And as it turned out, I've got a Rotary friend who lives in Breton, and I didn't even realize it. If I could ask you to mute, folks, that would get rid of the background noise, please. And lots of sailing in this area, of course. And they always have benches and picnic tables for your use. And this is kind of a scene where we could have just stayed there, as long as we wanted to. People were very happy that you came to their community, actually. And just a beautiful little area. And this area is rich with heritage and history. In fact, they lay claim to the fact that Alexander Graham Bell lived there for a while. He would come there, and so some of the telephone invention they shared with us took place in this building here on the shores of Badek. And if you wanted to go sailing, there's various boat tours. If you want a party, you could go on a party boat. So now we're at the North Sydney ferry terminal, and you have to reserve ahead, but you can usually get on at the last minute if there's no shows. So we had to be there at 6 p.m. In the evening for a 9 p.m. Loading. And so this is the other end where we arrived in Portobello, Newfoundland. And obviously we're in the harbor. There's tons of fishing boats and lobster boats. And this is some of the unloading of the ferry. The ferry is humongous, and all of the supplies for Newfoundland come across there in semi-trucks. And I mean, they must have had 75 semi-trucks on that ferry in addition to the vehicles. And of course, one of the first things we see is a big fishing boat sitting nearby as we drove out the driveway. They've got a little visitor center and a market area just adjacent to the pier where the ferry boat arrived. So they weren't open when we arrived at early morning, but I expect during the business hours they would be there to welcome tourists to their area. Another little park area just up the road from where the ferry terminal goes. And this is going to a place called Cape Ray, which is just north of the ferry. terminal, and just a wonderful spot and a good boondocking location. Again, lighthouses, and it's designed with kind of like a community park. It's out in the countryside, but it's like a small community park, and this is a little plaque to give the history of the lighthouse in this area. Some historical signage, and a little bit of a museum there that wasn't open when we were there, but this lady thinks she can fly. She's happy to be off that ferry. And this is like a little stage area where they have community performances in the area, and community events, I'm sure, during certain times of the year. And this is kind of the shoreline there. And so this goes down into a neat little boondocking area right at the water's edge. They would have a little lot down there, big enough. You can see the lot here. I would say it would hold a half a dozen road tracks with no problem. And just a beautiful little area. Because it was morning, we didn't stay there, but it's just a wonderful location that you could just avail of if you choose to go there. This is a neighboring house along the way. And on up the road a little bit further, there's a park called Boondocking, and it's also called Port George, I believe, the town nearby. And this is just a diamond in the rough. And you would never even know about this place, except one of my friends had been here the year prior, and he made sure to tell us about it. And it's just an amazing little area. It's a park that the local region sponsors and runs, and all free boondocking. You can park anywhere along here if you want, and there's more remote boondocking available as well. But here's somebody up here camped out, and a little bit of a scenic shot. And here we are at the edge of the bluff. Again, just amazing scenery and beautiful weather. If you want to drive along the gravel road, all this area is almost like your Arizona BLM land. You can park anywhere you want. And as you get closer to the end of the road, there's parking along the bluff here where you can boondock overnight. And it's just absolutely an amazing spot. She's trying to tease me that she's going for a swim. I don't think so. But again, here's some of the scenery. Here's one of your closest neighbors over here. And just an amazing area that no, there was hardly anybody there when we were there. And this is over near the entrance. And this is a bed breaking oven, bed breaking oven. And every day after lunch, some of the local neighbors come and they bake bread in this oven. So there's a sign there that if you go at 2 p.m., you'll get some fresh cooked bread. So that was just kind of the neighbors' little welcome activity to their town sort of thing. Another parking area. And this is driving up through the village. One of the things you'll notice over there is all of the housing is very colorfully painted and for the most part in very good condition. Heading on up the road another few miles, another parking area with picnic tables. And we stopped there. I believe we had lunch there. And there's a little tea room there, which welcomes everybody. And they have a little museum there as well. A very picturesque area. Some old boats that somebody's painted up and refurbished. And now we're in Brook, Newfoundland. This is the Kinsman Campground. And again, it's a project that the local Kinsman Club operates as a fundraising project. And it's not that well known, but it's just a delightful little campground. The people are very nice. The washrooms are very warm and clean and modern. And we actually talked earlier about firewood. We just went out into the bush and gathered firewood. and enjoyed a campfire that night. And so just yeah, just a nice little campground run by the Kinsman Club, and we were happy to support them. We're continuing our journey up the western coast of the island. Um, and we're into another little village, Humpback area, where they have a lot of fishing, and they promote whale watching tours from this location. But I have another better whale watching location to share with you in a minute. And this is kind of the harbor. And then where we were parked, this fellow came in, and he came across to me in the parking lot, and he said, "Do you guys like fish?" I said, "Well, sure." And he says, "Well," he said, "we've just been fishing." And he says, "I got so many fish, I can't use them all." He said, "I'd love to give you some if you want them." So he went over and he opened up the back of his car, and he gave us a whole bunch of fish because he'd caught so many. And I'll show you, we did go fishing. I'll show you the capron fish a little bit later, but that was very kind of him, but symbolic of the warm hospitality and the friendliness of the people who lived there. And I believe this was his fishing boat that he had tied up. Again, beautiful, well-kept buildings. And this is coming into the village of Harry's Harbor, which is now on the north shore, up on one of those peninsulas that you see in the map I showed you. And just another beautiful little village. And I'm going to say it's boondocker friendly. And I'll show you why in a moment. So this is the little harbor area. Because it's on a peninsula, it's got water kind of all around it. It's up near the tip of the peninsula. So on one side is this little harbor bay area. And you can see that the neighbors have been busy. There's a sign there. There's little flowers. There's a walking trail along the coast if you go there. But otherwise, you can park there. And it's just an amazing, welcoming atmosphere that's there. And this is the parking area. So this is like down the end of a dead-end street. And you can park 3 or 4 rigs there very easily. And it's just, you know, within eyesight of some housing, but not right on their doorstep. And interesting, there was 3 or 4 picnic tables there, and it was interesting that these tables had just been freshly painted, I'm going to say within the last 2-3 weeks. So it was obvious that the neighbors were very warm and welcoming, and I'll share a little bit more in a picture or two. Again, bright colors, well-kept buildings, and that was very impressive. So we go to the other side of this village on the other bay, and this is at the end of a street, and there's a neighbor there. That's his garage on the left. Behind that is his house. So we were just at the end of the street in another little parking area, and just beautiful scenery. So the neighbor came over and welcomed us. And we had a little chat. And he says, yeah, he says, if you stay overnight, he said, tomorrow morning you'll see whales in this bay. He said, every morning I sit on my back porch and have my coffee and read the paper and watch the whales swimming here in the bay. So he was quite open and welcoming for us to stay there overnight. But it was during the day. We had already stayed in the other location. So, but Harry's Bay is just a do not miss little village to go to with boondocking opportunities. Again, going along the shoreline, very clean, very pristine. The water so clear you could likely drink it. Now we're on to our next stop, which is getting close to Gander. This town is called Appleton, and I'll tell you more about Gander and Appleton in a minute. But this is at a dragon boat club on the bay. And again, a little parkette open to anybody who wants to stay there. Just, they provide, you know, chairs. You can see the little sitting chairs here. There's a bench over here. Just an amazing place to stay. in Appleton, just sit on the bench and watch the world go by. And this is the Appleton Dragon Boat Club that has their trailer, and the parking area is over here for the camping. And you got a boat launch there if you want to. All free, no expectation of any reimbursement or payment. Just down the street in Appleton. As you're going to this location, you go by the community park, and it's a very beautiful spot. Now, we're going next to Gander, but if you recall, back when 9/11 hit, Gander, Newfoundland is a small community that all of the overseas flights had to make an emergency landing at. And there's a movie called Come From Away, both a live theater production and also a movie production. And in the movie production, this park is featured, is a meeting where they had a community remembrance service of that scene. Just a little bit up the road at the next town, we came along a car wash. A church youth group was having a car wash, so I stopped and said, "Hey, you guys want a challenge to wash this thing?" And oh yeah, they were all over that. They were kind of bored actually just doing cars. So when they could do something different and unique like this, they were all over it. So they did a great job. They scrubbed that thing up and down, and it was spick and span. All the bugs off the front, and yeah, they did a really good job, and raising money for their church youth group. So now we're coming into the town of Gander, again, very well-known town to anybody connected with 9/11, and again, the people were warm or friendly. It's kind of the easternmost major airport of Canada, so prior to jetliners being able to fly long distances, often Gander would be a refueling stop for overseas flights prior to the longer range jets. So there's a lot of aviation going on here, a lot of memories of aviation. And of course, they have different tragedies there. Of course, the 9/11 is included in that. And this is the airport. That's famous for their hospitality. And through this terminal, this is the only terminal, there was almost 8,000 passengers came through this terminal all in one few hours. I was going to say one day, but maybe even half a day, where all of the big airliners had to make emergency landing here because of 9/11. And they had to deal with almost 8,000 passengers and crew for a few days during the security lockdown. Just amazing to talk to the people and what they were doing. And this is one of the colleges that a lot of the people stayed at. They took the gymnasium and brought in cots and blankets, and a lot of people stayed in this. Many were home hosted as well. And also there was a park pavilion that they used. And this is being with my connection in Rotary, I was quite impressed with their park here. That's a community project of the local Rotary Club. And this was a unique idea. I haven't seen one of these before, but the picnic bench has got an extension on it. And that is for people that are handicapped and in a wheelchair. So they can wheel right up to the picnic table and sit at the table in their wheelchair. And I thought that was quite a unique idea that I hadn't seen before. Again, the water is very clean and crisp. Landscaping is great. And now an hour or two later, we're into St. John's, and the most easterly city, I'll say. This is one of the capital grounds areas, and rich with history about Canada, and a lot of unique stonemasonry there as well. And this is one of the streets, a large church up on a hill that you can see for miles. I thought this was kind of unique food truck. We see food trucks in our travels, but I thought this was kind of a unique way of painting up a food truck. Again, some colorful housing, and the local people call these jelly bean rows. Obviously because of their various colors like jelly beans. This is the back of the regional courthouse. Again, some jelly bean rows. I was just amazed at how well maintained these are. For the most part, all of them are nicely painted and appear to be well cared for. And some other municipal buildings. Now this is a walkway into Pippi Park, which is another, this is a campground right in the middle of the city. You can park there and walk, or you can drive. They've done a really good job. And this was some friends that we met there. And we had some social time with them. And this is the local Rotary Club president. We were at a Rotary meeting while we were there. That's the governor, who's my friend. And I'll just skip through these. A youth exchange student from Sweden was there. Rotary's big into youth exchange. They have an auction that they do to raise money. And then this is a Rotary sponsored park, which is right beside the Pippi campgrounds. And you can walk through there. And they have a unique area, a play area, which is centered on music. So it's like outdoor musical instruments to engage families and children. And they can go along and play these various instruments, which are designed for the outdoors. And then they sponsor community gardens. So you can see these little gardening plots here. So members of the public or the homeless or anybody, they can sign up to get one of these little garden plots and grow their own little garden if they wish. I thought that was quite a unique community service project. So now we're going outside of St. John's, just on the fringes, and this is Signal Hill. And Signal Hill is popular in history because it was where the first wireless signal was transmitted by Marconi across the ocean. And they explain that there's quite unique properties geographically to this location, that it would transmit radio signals really well. And that's just a shot off to the coastline. That's another shot. That's the bay that we're on. And this explains the rocks all in this area. And apparently some of the rock formations enhances the radio signals, but I don't understand the technology. But this signage shared historical, geographical, geological comments. So amazing little part of history. Again, looking across the bay, a lighthouse. You always usually will see a little white house nearby a lighthouse, which of course is the lighthouse keeper's house. Again, very small little villages. This is looking from Signal Hill back towards the St. John's Harbor area. So this is the city of St. John's here. All sorts of boat wharfs along here. And just an amazing site. So this would be the main harbor on the east coast of Canada, well protected. And then just along the route going back to St. John's is it's a big, huge geology center that gives the history of rock formations, the different types of rocks, and it gives the description of where these rocks come from and how they originated. So a good geography lesson and geology lesson for anybody who's interested in that. And they have big chunks of these rocks cut in half with signage to explain how you tell what they are. Also, some inside museum displays on coral reefs and climate change and and conservation and this sort of thing. All information with regard to the shoreline and the east coast of Canada. Some information on whales and whale watching, of course. And on down the road, there's another little parking area that you're happy to stay at and enjoy. And now we're at a place called Cape Spear. And this is the tip of eastern Canada. That's the most eastern point of Canada on the water. Some very unique stone formations there. You'd almost think they were bone fragments, but I think they were rock fragments. And again, this lady thinks she can fly. Now, if we were on a nice sunny day, we would be able to look out east towards Europe. They provide comfortable chairs and everything, but unfortunately, it was a little bit foggy the day we were there. And Grace has a cousin that was going to university there, so her and a friend came and toured us around one day, and I was busy at a meeting that day, but they went to a fishing village and a unique little area, and look at the fish that they caught. There were so many fish that Grace had to go to the local store and buy like a bucket like this. They didn't even need a fishing rod. They just scooped up those fish in that little pail there. And that was the same fish that the fellow gave me from his car in a few slides earlier. And just so many fish. Tarpon, I think they were called. And there's another mermaid just came in out of the water by the looks of it. And again, more bays, more beautiful sights of the small fishing village. And this is another fishing village that we went to. I think it's called Port Hope, if I remember. And they were doing a TV shoot here. This is all part of a TV shoot over in this area. They had the TV, the TV staff and crew were just having lunch while we were there. And we went and had lunch at a fish restaurant that was recommended to us. And it was very good. So that's kind of St. John's. So we're headed back now. We're retracing our steps from St. John back to Portobello, but we're going to make different stops going back. So this is likely one of the better, more picturesque boondocking spots in a little village called Karenville. And it's just an amazing spot. And we pulled in there just at dusk. It's in behind a municipal building, a large parking lot. Again, a little parkette typical of this entire trip. And you can see some of the lights coming on. And in the morning, when you wake up, here's the view of the bay. Again, with always with the picnic bench, usually with either chairs or a sitting bench, and just a delightful spot to get out and stretch your arms and legs and have breakfast. And we really enjoyed this location, so make sure you put that on your list if you happen to be going east. Again, just some various shots. And so as we were having breakfast at this location, people would come by and greet us, and some would stop to talk for a minute. And different people said, "Oh, we're so happy to have you here. It's so nice to see people using our little park, and we hope you enjoy your stay. Good to have you in our town," sort of discussions. And then a lady came by walking her dog, and she was so excited. She came and talked to us, and she said, "Oh," she says, "how do you like your road track?" And I said, "Oh, we love it." She said, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe we see another road track. We just bought a road track 3 months ago, and my husband's been working to get it all ready, and we're going to Alaska in a couple weeks." And she said, "I'm going to run home and get him because I think he would want to come and talk to you. Do you mind if I get my husband to come and visit with you?" And we said, "No, not as long as he's here within the next half hour." And so like less than 10 minutes, he comes driving in with their road trek. And we had a good visit, showed him some of the stuff we do. He showed us some of the stuff he did. In fact, we had a couple things that weren't working on our road trek, nothing serious. And he said, oh, come on up to my house. He says, we'll get that fixed up. So he invited us up to their home, just like only 5 minutes away. He had a workshop that any road trek dealer would envy to have. And so he fixed up the 2 little things we needed, like in no time. Gave us a bunch of leftover RV stuff because they had sold a travel trailer and bought the road trek, and he had a whole bunch of additional little trinkets and stuff. And he says, take whatever you need because I need them anymore. I got my road trek all ready to go. This was a 12-volt fan that he had mounted, which, as you can see, swings around, goes frontwards, backwards, and his little temperature gauge on the bottom there. He had one on the outside storage compartment, one in the fridge. And so he had done a lot of updates to his rig. That's a little tray he made to go over the stove elements, like many of us have. Heading on out of town, Grace and I enjoy yard sales and garage sales. So we ran into a yard sale. So Grace saw something there she needed by the looks of it. And then just nearby, there's another Rotary Park. And again, the community gardening seems to be popular in this area where they let people have these garden plots. And the Rotary logo is in a wheel. So if you look at the sidewalk, it's done in the shape of the Rotary wheel. And well, I guess that would be meaningful only to a Rotarian, but I thought it was kind of neat how they did that. Again, we're heading on back, and now the water is on our right instead of our left. Again, many beautiful little villages. And we're going to take you to another famous area, all sorts of beaches along the way, by the way, to go for a dip if you so choose. Or Grace likes collecting fancy rocks. So she did that. This guy, he likes eating junk food. So as long as he's got a bag of Doritos in his hands, he's happy. And this is kind of a unique sign. Obviously, moose are big there, and you really got to be careful driving at night. So after seeing a couple accidents, I was a little hesitant to do much night driving. And then this is even more unique when you see how they mark their potholes. And I can't imagine why they would send somebody out to paint the potholes. Why wouldn't they just take some filler and put some pavement filler in there? It wouldn't take more labor to fill it and fix it than it would to paint the yellow line around it. But anyway, that's the way they deal with their potholes, which I thought was kind of a unique way to maintain the roads. It may be done in the winter, I don't know. Another interesting village along the way. And Twilight Gate is a very popular village. You may have heard of it. It's a popular tourist location for iceberg watching. And again, the people were so friendly here. We couldn't believe how friendly they were. This is a boat builder museum, and obviously a lot of boat and fishing things. And this was a church, and I'm going to show you in a minute the little concert we went to, but very, very warm and interesting. Again, one of the oldest churches in Canadian history, and tells about it there. Again, that church lot could be a Boondockers. The people of the church came along and we talked to them, and they were very welcoming that we could park in the church lot overnight if we wanted to. We had a better spot in mind, and once we mentioned it, they said, oh yes, down by the harbor would be quite good as well. But this is kind of the harbor area, and again, all sorts of beautiful sites, a lot of fishing piers, obviously, and boats, and more exhibits. This is another exhibit of the Titanic that went down, and lots of artifacts from the Titanic. Again, we're out at the Lighthouse, and this is just north from the town, maybe, I don't know, 5-10 minute drive. A big lighthouse here because this is on one of the major tips of Newfoundland, the Lightkeeper's home, and very immaculately well kept. And this is the area where the iceberg watching takes place. On the other side of the parking lot, this is where people come to look for icebergs. And if you look out here, you'll see a little white dot there. And you can't see them in this photo, but there was a couple others. And 2 or 3 other people were there, and we were discussing, are they really icebergs or might they be a cruise ship? Because it was hard to tell. It was a big white blob, but we couldn't tell if it was a cruise ship or an iceberg. And so one of the other gentlemen went to his car, brought his binoculars, and let us look, and they were actually icebergs. And I guess this is the Iceberg Alley I mentioned to you when I showed you the map. The icebergs float right down through here. So there weren't a lot when we were there, but there are times when iceberg, somebody said at the lighthouse, the icebergs sometimes come right up to this shoreline almost. When one gets off the current and gets locked in the bay. So quite a beautiful little area to visit. Lots of scenery, obviously. So back at that church I showed you, we learned, we saw a poster that they were going to have what they call a ceilidh. And a ceilidh is like a musical concert of music. And so we went and we actually attended the ceilidh. And these 2 guys were performing. This guy's a Juno Award winner and in charge of the show. But because they served alcohol, Elijah, our son, wasn't allowed to go in. So we said, well, we don't know what we can do then. And we'll have to figure out, what he could do. And the guy said, well, do you have a video player in your RV? We said, yes. He says, just hang on. He said, my mother-in-law just lives up the road. I'll go get some videos. And he can use our videos, and he can watch a couple movies in your RV while you guys come to the show. So that's what we did. But just another example of their warm and friendly hospitality. And I'm just going to, I'll just entertain you here just for a minute. So we enjoyed that evening. Again, down by the bay. So this is in Twilight Gate, a little parkette area. And this is where the person from the church who welcomed us to stay in their lot said, yeah, this would even be nicer because it's right on the water. So another great boondocking spot in Twilight Gate. And another site, again, as I said, always picnic benches and park benches to sit on, and usually flower pots. Looking up the other way. So we learned that there was a really good restaurant there, so we decided to go and have breakfast with Annie. And so this is again just nearby the parking lot where we stayed overnight, and we had a beautiful breakfast there. And Grace enjoyed the fish cakes. I'm not a fish seafood person, but Grace really enjoyed the fish cakes, which were a specialty at that restaurant. Again, on the other side of the parking lot where we boondocked, they rent these cabins out. There's more cabins along the way. I got another picture later. But again, chairs to sit out and watch the day go by. And you can go there and rent a cabin right on the water if you wish. And some more little piers, some of the community. And if you wanted to go for a boat tour, then this is where you would come for the pier to take a boat tour. Some more little cabins that you can rent. If you don't have your own RV, you can just rent a little cabin there. Just a beautiful village, and it's always on the tourist maps. Again, a little wayside stop, a little model church beside the big church, and again, a little parkette area. Boyd's Cove is an Indian reserve area, and it's got a museum arts center there, and a spirit garden, which is kind of like a walking trail. And a lot of the stuff is labeled for anybody who's into gardening. And now we're coming into a place called Grand Falls, Windsor. And it's well known for salmon in this area. And they actually have a salmon step water ladder, they call it. And I'll just go quickly through this because I know we're getting short on time. But Grand Falls, Windsor is a great stop. It's obviously waterfall there, and some of the terrain. This is the visitor center, and I'll just give you a short glimpse at how this works. Again, they have signage to show how this works and how the fish jump up these steps to go upstream for their spawning, and well documented. So this is the water ladder where the fish from below come up around, and I'll just, you can just watch them jumping up. So wouldn't you like to have a fishing pole there, eh? And it's just amazing. They were explaining that it's in it's in the genes of the salmon fish that they want to jump and have that energy to go up. And again, this is part of it at the visitor center. And then if you go down below, they have a glass wall that you can see them as they're coming up to jump. And of course, more signage to explain the life cycle of a salmon. So you can see here is the water, and the fish are down below. They go up this waterfall on the left and around, and then they go into the upper level to spawn. So as we're heading back east from Grand Falls, Windsor, Green Point is another wayside camping area. This, I believe, is a campground, and right on the water. This is, again, Harish, I'll share my secrets with you. This is, I think it's campground number 7. But it's in the campground. I've got a map here in a minute, but this is where you're camped, right on this beach. And this is the one just across the road that was camped. And that was campground number 6. That's the photo I showed you there. So this is the site. This is the one beside it. Great area, lots of signage, and of course, lots of hiking. So now we're at Mourne, which again is a very popular area. It's got glaciers. You can see a bit of snow here, mountains. This is a 3-kilometer walk to get to the lake where you can take a boat tour. And they don't allow vehicles to go here, other than they had a golf cart to take supplies back and forth. But it's a 3-kilometer walk, and then you get to a tour boat and a little tourist center here. But you got to walk in and you got to walk out, and they're very protective of the environment. So they have a boat tour that takes you through the glaciers, and you'll see a lot of waterfalls. And they tell us that up on top of these waterfalls, there's snow. You can see here, this is from the snow melting up above, forming a waterfall. And they were telling us that the height of some of these cliffs is 1/3 taller than the CN Tower. So just to put it into perspective, it's very tall and kind of majestic in a way. And if you drive around to the other side, they can take you on hiking tours up above. And you can actually hike to the glacier areas. So again, some snow up above is melting, and that's the waterfall that it creates. Another one here. Just very beautiful. Obviously, the pictures don't do it justice as being there in real life. Now, just down the road from Gros Mourne is this location. Again, a great boondocking spot, and it's a lookout area. And you can camp over here without any bother whatsoever. And just magnificent views. And I do believe, yeah, there's a walking path here to the water. And there looks to have been a boat wreck there at some point in the past, based on some of the garbage metal that's on the shoreline in this here. So I'm assuming there was a shipwreck there years ago. Lots of interesting rocks. Of course, Grace is keeping us organized. Looks like Elijah's getting ready to go fishing again. But that's my lady who looks after the inside of the road check for us. Again, driving along the shores. Interesting old boathouse there. We're coming now into a village. And this is another boondocking area and a popular fishing spot. And there were 2 or 3 other guys fishing. So Elijah went fishing, and he caught a fish. And actually, he caught more fish in like half an hour than the other 3 guys had caught in 2 or 3 hours. They were a little bit envious that he could just drive up and start catching fish. And this is a village of Woody Point. So we're just on the outskirts of Woody Point at that boondocking location. And another little village, Lighthouse, of course. And so now we're heading up into the mountain range on the other side of Gros Mourne. A little bit of indication of snow in this area. And now we're getting to Corner Brook, and this is the site of Captain Cook, and it tells about Captain Cook taking his voyage to Canada and landing at this location. There's a statue of him and Miss Grace, and that tells some of the history of that location. Again, the city from up above where the Captain Cook Park is. So now we're back at the ferry, saying goodbye to Newfoundland, and we're headed back to North Sydney, Cape Breton, or Nova Scotia. Again, an indication of how big this ferry is. Look at the semi-trucks lined up there. There's still room for more to come in the center. So now we're in North Sydney, which would be Cape Breton, Nova Scotia area. Again, a waterfront park. We stopped there and had lunch. And some sailboat people. Again, not only are the homes well taken care of for and painted nicely, but so are the boats. These boats, the lobster fishing season is over. These apparently are lobster boats, and it was explained to me that the fishing season for lobster was over, so they take the boats out. Again, another park area. If anybody's heard of Rita Mcneil and Rita's Tea Room, this is it. This is on the shore of Nova Scotia between Sydney and Halifax. So we stopped and had a cup of tea. For those who know Rita, they would realize that she's passed away now, but her family was trying to keep the tea room going. They had entertainment there on Sunday afternoon, so we were just lucky that the flute guy here and a keyboard player and a guitar. So we had a little concert in Rita Mcneil's tea room, which which really just happened to be. She's even got her own teacups, but there's a story behind that. I'll tell you in a minute. The miners were a big part of Rita's background, and she even had a miners choir that traveled with her sometimes to perform on stage, and there's tribute to them, and that's a little bit of a sign explaining the Men of the Deep, which was a choir that accompanied her from time to time. But part of the teacup story is that these teacups were given to her by her relatives and her friends. When she started the tea room, she did not have enough money to buy the necessary teacups and saucers. So people in the community and her relatives donated teacups and saucers to her so she could start her tea room. And it's kind of ironic that up here then is a symbol of success in the recording industry with the platinum gold records acknowledging her success. And on the side of the tea room was her living quarters, kind of a little apartment. And the apartment, now that she's passed away, is open as a little gift room. So this was a little kitchen area in her living quarters when she lived there. This was her living room when she was alive. So it was kind of interesting to see where she lived and her fireplace. And actually, they promote that Rita is actually with you, having tea with you today, because some of her ashes are in this teapot on the mantle of the fireplace. So we're headed on down to another good boondocking spot, and this is a place called Marie Joseph Park. And again, most of these parks, there's no problem staying there overnight. There seem to be very amenable to you camping there. Again, picnic tables right on the water along the coastline, and we're getting near the end of our trip. Now here is an interesting spot. This is a church parking lot, and I don't even know how I found this place, but usually I like driving off the interstate on coastal roads, and whenever I see water in a lane like this, I'm not shy to drive down there and take a gander. So we drove in through there, through the parking lot, and on back down the other side of that parking lot. We went through a bit of an area where these are platforms for oysters, we come to find out later. And this is where we ended up boondocking on a lake. And we actually did have permission. You can see out here, there's oyster pens. And Grace and Elijah are getting oysters. And when we were there, some oyster farmers came along whose property, I guess, I'm not sure if it was their property, but they accessed and had their equipment near the shore. They said, oh, you're welcome to stay here. Just make yourself at home. Stay as long as you want. We're going out fishing for oysters, and you're welcome just to park here as long as you want. So they were very welcoming to us. And so, of course, Grace was quite excited because that night for supper, she got to have fresh oysters that they'd picked from the water a little bit further. So don't be afraid to wander down streets and laneways that look interesting. And just a further ways going west, this was the next boondocking night. Parking lot at a little marina. Again, they've got a picnic table out. And so I've come to, my motto is, or my mantra is, if you see a little parkette area or a parking area, and there's a picnic table there, that's my sign that means welcome to me. Because if they didn't want you to enjoy yourself and if you weren't welcome, I don't think they'd put a picnic bench out there for you. And this was the very small marina, of course. This is the extent of it. And there was nobody there except down on this little yacht, there was some people. We went and talked to them and asked them if they thought it was okay if we stayed there overnight. They said, oh, yeah, the guy who owns this place just lives across the road. We've been talking to him. He's very welcoming. I'm sure he'd be happy for you to stay here. You'd be more than welcome. And so we had, rather than go to a restaurant and pay $50 for lobster dinner, Grace says, I want to just go to a fish shack and buy my own lobster and cook my own. And so for about $6, she went and bought her lobster and cooked her own and had fresh cooked lobster that night for supper. So she was in heaven. And again, this is the next morning. And that's our breakfast, or I'm getting ready for my cereal and my coffee. And this is the little marina building that we were at. And there was a sign there basically said in an emergency, contact numbers. They had a little porta potty there. And so that is a quick Boondockers tour of Nova Scotia.
Was it challenging to find facilities, you know, to empty the tanks and get fresh water, et cetera?
Not at all. Not a problem at all. A lot of some of the truck stops have water and dump tanks. What I've found is a lot of big truck stops or places, when you see an LP gas tank, those big white tanks, if they sell propane, a lot of them already have water and sewage dumps as well. I would say, like, that trip took us a month, and I would say in the month, we kind of depends where we are, but I might get a campsite every third or fourth night. And depends where we are and if we see a spot, or, you know, if I was in a jam and had to dump, I might get a campsite just to use the water and the dumping, but never was a problem. And I think in one case, we stopped at a general store and they had some parking spots out back, and they had I could see they had sewer dumps. So and they had a sign up, and I think it said, I don't know, $5 or $10 for a sewer dump. So I asked the lady when we bought some stuff in the store, and she says, oh, she said, if you bought stuff in our store, she says, you can dump for free. I won't charge you. So I was really quite happy with the people, the friendliness, the warmth, their hospitality. We never had any problem anywhere. And in fact, as I mentioned, often in the mornings, people would walk by with their dog or just out wandering, and they would stop and visit with you in a very warm and welcoming way. So they were just happy to have people using the facilities.
I have another question for you, Doug. I was trying to follow on the map, and I saw all those places where you were on a ferry. Were those ferries pricey?
Yeah, they're well, depends on your definition of pricey. I think the ferry we went across, I think it might have been $80 or under 100 plus or minus. It's so much for the vehicle, and then so much. I think your vehicle fee might include the driver, but then other people you got to pay like $25 for or whatever. And then so on there's cabins available, but the truck drivers get first choice of cabins, obviously, because they're working and they have to have their rest. And but if you make reservations early enough, you might get a cabin. But a lot of people just take a pillow and a blanket, and the ferry wasn't all that full. We could lay down in the rows between the seats and you know, get a kind of a half-ass sleep if you wanted to. But there was like a formal restaurant dining area, and then there was also more like a cafeteria dining area. And I think there was a games room for the kids to keep them occupied. But no, the ferries were very neat and tidy and clean. And if I were going to do it again, I would go on the 8-hour ferry one way, and I'd come back on the 16-hour ferry the other. So then you didn't have to go both ways. It's been great to visit with you folks this morning, and we hope you enjoyed that little tour of Newfoundland and Eastern Canada, and that you'll be able to go on your own. Keep us posted. I'm certainly hoping to go back again whenever COVID allows. And we hope that you make it this way too, Michael, because I know that it'll be a worthwhile trip and you'll really enjoy it. So good to see everybody.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.